This episode is sponsored by Ash and Stone, a holistic herbal skincare company created by a certified skincare formulator for you. Whether you struggle with dry skin, acne, or want to refresh, Ash and Stone has you covered. They have moisturizers, cleansers, facial oils, and more. Go to ashandstoneskincare.com and use our code AWESOME15 for 15% off at checkout today. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hello Awesome podcast. Today I have my good friend, someone who God placed in my life at the right time, many times, wife, mom, Christian counselor, Melissa Snyder. Melissa, I love seeing your face. I really do. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. Can you just take a minute to share with us who you are and what you do?
Well, I am thrilled to be here talking to you. And I always think when I introduce myself, I used to always introduce myself by what I did for a living first. And now I try to say, well, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. That's the very first thing that I want to be true about me and share. I am a wife and I'm getting ready to celebrate 29 years this month of marriage. And so that is exciting. And I have two kids. I have a 23-year-old son and a 26-year-old daughter who both love and serve God. And as a mom, like nothing else I could really want in life, though they are single, if you know someone, let me, who also loves God and serves Him. And I'm a licensed clinical counselor. I've been one for almost 30 years now. And currently, I specialize in anxiety disorders. I primarily work with Christians or people of faith. And I also do anxiety reduction classes online for kids and teens and adults. And this bizarre thing to me to happen to me in my 50s is my husband and I have just established and started pastoring a network of house-based churches, which is nothing that was on my bingo card, but what an adventure. So that's where I'm at.
I love that so much. I'm sure your kids will love that shout out. But I remember us talking, privately about what God has given you and your husband as far as these house churches, and
Yeah,
just going back to the grassroots of it all, of the,
yeah,
old apostolic, movement of it all started in the home. And I love that
yeah.
so much. I'm so excited to hear more about that. It's amazing. Um, well, there's so much that obviously we can unpack together, but I really believe that the Lord wants us to speak about the beauty of rest. That's a topic you and I have talked about. I've seen you
Yes.
share that quite a bit on Instagram. But in our own sessions, in our own discussions, even as friends, something
Yeah.
that I know I've come to you about.
Hmm.
Especially when it comes to what our nervous system looks like on the other side of healing after we've healed from a traumatic event or something that's been crazy in our lives and the Lord gives us a miracle. Sometimes our
Yeah.
body doesn't follow suit. And so, why don't we start with some foundation? Why is rest so important for you, for us to talk to others about?
Yeah. I love that you use the word beauty when talking about rest, because that's it. That is what it is. And when Jesus talks about the Sabbath or rest, he talks about how it's for us, it's for our good, and it's for our well-being. I really do think about rest as a gift. You know, when you're a little kid and you hate taking a nap, and then as you get older, you're like, yes, nap. That you really can start to embrace it as a lifestyle. And when I think about rest, I think about it's a stopping, it's a ceasing of motion, action, stopping any kind of physical or mental exertion. It's a letting go. And when we look at that concept and then we compare it to what's happening in our culture, it has become extraordinarily unpopular to rest. That not only is it not something we prioritize, that we will shame people for resting, that instead we're all about girl boss, hustle, work, achieve, and do. And that's what we reward, and that's what we talk about. And well, not only do we not take a day of rest on the norm, we don't even rest in like our day to day. Like when we're just, waiting in line at the store, when we are sitting in the car, we're always doing something and have information coming in. We don't even go to the bathroom anymore and have a moment of quiet. People are taking that phone in. And so we're constantly, constantly in a state of go and action. And so I think we have to talk about rest because the culture around us is so pushing hustle, hustle, hustle. And that's not what God wants for us, as we will be destroyed if we don't make rest a part of our day-to-day life. So I love that you're picking up on it because I don't think that's part of secular culture or even church culture to think about rest.
Absolutely. And there were so many good things that you said there. I know when I first started actually being intentional about my own rest, I got a lot of pushback. And you
Yes.
you
Yeah.
hear a lot of phrases from people that you thought, "Oh, I thought you were a safe person. I thought you were like on my side and you want me to
Yeah.
burn out because I guess that's the image that you had of me or something."
Yeah.
But I'm noticing now that those same people are trying to prioritize their rest. And
Good.
I've had a few say, "Oh, I get it now." You know, why I
Mm-hmm.
would say no to certain things. It's not because I don't
Yes.
want to hang out. It's almost like a no, not right now, but let's make a
Yeah.
plan for a certain time. Let's be intentional for meeting at a certain time. And,
Yeah.
you know, I'm the type that I just a very anxious person. It's just how I am. However, um, the Lord is using it for his glory now in such a
Yeah.
special way because I'm actually prioritizing time in my everyday. It doesn't have to be
Yes.
long, but I call it pockets of time. And I try and
Mm-hmm.
tell people, you might not have like a 3 hour block. Who has
Right.
a 3 hour block? But if you can have like a 15, a 20, even a 30 minute, I think 30 minutes is such a good time frame for me. Just like a 30 minute, let me just sit on my bed. That's where
Yeah.
I like to kind of like unwind and just be still.
Yeah. Absolutely.
If you want to read a book, if you want to do something, fine, but it's not rushing here, rushing there, trying to multitask so many things.
Yes. It's not good for us. And there was a study that came out maybe about a year ago that showed if we have as few as 13 minutes a day of mindfulness for 8 weeks and then only about 3 to 5 to maintain, you literally change the way your brain looks. That you will develop more gray matter. You will have the ability to think better, learn easier, to regulate better. That our body desperately wants us to have those pockets, as you called them, or moments of stillness and rest. We need it. And we will all benefit if we can make that part of our regular lifestyle.
Absolutely. And, if we were to be like God, God rested.
He sure did, and he didn't need it.
He didn't need it.
He didn't need
Um,
it.
and almost everything that he does is to help us learn more about him and how to
Yeah.
be more like him. And if we are not sure how to rest, that's when you go to him. And he has
Yes,
lined it up in
absolutely.
his word. And I do believe he will also send you people.
Yeah.
Like for me, it was you in particular in very crucial moments of my life to give me tools, not just
Yeah.
talk about it, but
Yeah.
help me actually be about it,
Yes. Make it happen. Like
make it
it's
happen.
possible.
Yeah. So this might be a loaded question, but what is one thing, if we can just narrow it down to one thing
Yeah.
that we get wrong about rest as believers in the church?
I love that question because this is something the Lord spoke so loudly to me in 2021. And the bottom line of the thing that I think we get the most wrong about rest is it is a commandment. To have a day without work is not optional. It's in the same list with the murder and the stealing and the all of that is something he has said you must do. Not it's a good idea and I'd love it if you consider it, but it's a commandment. And we preach and teach all the other ones, but this one we've acted like it's up to you if you can fit it in. And not only do we act like that in the church, we applaud people when they come in and they're like, girl, I got 2 hours of sleep and I picked up a side hustle this weekend to have more vacation money. And I was at the church working all day, getting ready for VBS or whatever, fill in the blank. And we are like, whoa, you have got it going on. And we applaud them and we support that in a way that I've got to believe we wouldn't do if I came in and told you I was lying and stealing all week. I was like, I was stealing all week long, that you wouldn't be like, woo, way to hustle, Melissa. No. Instead, we would be concerned because you're doing something that the Lord said don't do. But in the church, we feel like sometimes church work is an exception to that commandment. And I can remember when God convicted me of this and how hard it was for me that I didn't just go, oh, it's a commandment, because it was so against my nature that from the time I was a small child, I had been trained because of patterns in my home that you do hustle, you do work hard, be perfect, do more, make sure you keep her happy, make sure you don't do anything that upsets anyone. And that rest was really laziness. That if you're not going and you're not working and you're not hustling, that it's lazy. So I made this commitment to the Lord in 2021 that I said, okay, I'm going to take this seriously. And I can remember the first time I tried to implement this at church, similar to you, the response I got sort of amazed me. We'd had a weekend where we had a Friday, a Saturday event. We had two services on Sunday. And I went to the Lord and I said, hey, I know I was going to rest, but I'm going to carve out those 16 hours in the week, because this was just a one-off. This weekend was really busy because of what we had going on at the church. Wednesday night, they say, hey, Friday night, we're going to have music practice. Saturday, we're going to have church work day and two services on Sunday. And I knew in that moment, no, I promised the Lord. So I went to leadership and I said, you can pick Friday or Saturday, but I can't be at both. Otherwise, I won't have a day of rest, a day without work. And they said, okay. And so I was like, oh, well, that worked out. Sunday morning, I come in, there's a gentleman on the back pew, and I'm like, good morning, brother so-and-so. And he's like, good morning, Sister Melissa. It was so good to see you yesterday at church work day. Wait, you weren't there. Back in the day, that would have crushed my people-pleasing soul. That I would have started scrambling and defending and been like, well, I'm never going to do that again. I'll run myself in the ground. To know that I indeed was being judged the way I thought I would be judged. But the Lord had done such a work with me that in that moment, I actually smiled. I felt a giggle, like a giggle inside. And I went, nope, nope, you didn't. And I just walked to my seat. And if God would have appeared in front of me, I'd have high-fived him and been like, Jesus, look what we just did. Look at all that growth. Look at me just walking away like that's no problem. And so it was an awesome moment because I knew I was able to overcome my nature in that moment. But it was also a sad moment for me because our churches are failing to tell us that this is a commandment that we need, and even doing things that make it hard to obey that commandment. So that's the biggest thing I think we get wrong. Rest is a commandment, not a suggestion.
Right. And do you find it now that the Lord has walked you through this for yourself, that you spot it in other people more? Not in a judgmental way, but in a
Yeah,
way that you really move to pray for that person more when you see that they're unsettled and they don't know how to rest. Because I feel
yeah,
that for me.
for sure. My husband and I have both said, and we've had moments, if I'm just going to be transparent about it, where I wish I could sometimes go back. The things that the Lord has shown us and given us, we can never not see it again. We see it in ourselves, we see it in others, and there is a sadness that comes when you're not able to help someone else. When you see someone just burning themselves into the ground, destroying their families and their marriages because of this hustle, two jobs, three jobs, got to achieve, got to have a bigger house, bigger cars. It's I have cried and said, I wish I could go back. I don't want to see all of this sometimes. And so it's been nice to just kind of hold my husband's hand and be like, okay, the burden is not ours, but we're going to pray for them and we're going to pray for them to see and make the changes that is going to change their life. Like if you can embrace, I have come to understand that God's rules are protection, that God's guidelines, his commandments are meant for my good, not to keep me from a good time, not to restrict my life, but so I can have life and life more abundantly here on earth, not just later. And so, yeah, I wish I could unsee it sometimes, but no,
Yeah.
I do spot it. I think I can spot it across the room sometimes.
Yeah, I feel that as well. I have a saying that I tell my boys, and they don't like when I say it, but I hope they remember. But I tell them if I don't care about you, then
Mm,
I won't have rules.
yeah.
But because I care about you, I do
Yes.
have rules.
Yes.
And you might not like them, but it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
they say it all the time. Like, if I don't care about you, I would let you do whatever you want. And
Right.
that's how I feel like we need to look at God. If he really
Yes.
truly didn't love us and didn't care about us, well, he would have no need to have any guidelines. He wouldn't, we
Right.
wouldn't need the law. We wouldn't need his grace. We wouldn't need the gospel. We wouldn't need
Yep.
anything. But because he does love us,
Yes.
that he is not willing that any should perish.
That's right.
And he has created such a beautiful, perfect guideline for us to follow
Yes.
if we would humble ourselves and seek his face. And that truly, I hope to implement like day to day if I can.
I agree. I'm with you there.
So, if there is someone who is serving the Lord, an active church member, who they know that this is a sore spot,
Mm.
that it's hard for them, knowing what even rest is and really struggling with that, um, how to even do it well, what would you say to them?
One, I feel that. I feel that deeply. I am that person, and that is still my nature. I don't know that that will ever go away for me to struggle with rest. So, one, been there and overcoming those deeply ingrained messages. Like, I was a pastor's kid where church was everything and church work was everything and rest was lazy. So, overcoming those messages that we received as a child and the messages that we still receive from the church today, it is challenging, but it's possible. And for me, I know the first step, if I tried to break it down, that I think there were three stages for me. And the first step was I had to view the lack of rest as disobedience to God. I had to look at it as a sin and not just, well, it's a great idea and I just wasn't able to do it today. But I had to look at it as something that I wanted to repent over. Meaning I wanted to change, I wanted to turn from that. It was also devastating my health and life because not only not having a day of rest, but not having moments of rest in the day, not having those times where I could just let go and let God and not be trying to fix everything and handle everything. So my first step is acknowledging that it's disobedience. Like you got to feel that because then you start to feel that conviction to do differently. And then the second thing that I found happened for me was if I was going to overcome all that internal programming and that external pressure from church to hustle and make it happen and work yourself to exhaustion, I needed to be in relationship with God. And that meant daily talking to Him, that meant daily reading the Bible, that I had to sit in His love. And when I sat in His love, then I could feel the ease and the rest that happened by knowing I'm loved no matter what. I don't earn it. I can't earn it. It's not necessary. He just loves me. And when I would sit in that every day with the Lord, it made it easier because that wasn't the last comment I got from that church guy. I got comments from other people that when those came my way, makes me think of that verse in Psalms, he's my shield and my buckler. It felt like I was protected from being injured and from giving in because I had sat in God's love that gave me like the two thumbs up for the rest. Like, so that was the second thing for me. And then I think the final thing, and this is that when we talked about earlier tools and strategies, is you have to be intentional about rest. It is a mistake if you think you can just go, oh, I'm going to make it happen. It should go on your calendar. And so when we first started doing this, I would put it in my calendar. Where is my 16 hours of rest? 8 hours being sleep. I think about a day of rest being 16 hours. Where am I putting it? And we would often split it between Saturday and Sunday. Like sometimes we couldn't do a continuous 16, so we would do a split. But I need that every week. And what rest looks like is going to be different for everybody. If I'm making a new bread recipe or reading a book or learning to play a new song, like that's me being still. That's me feeling that restoring energy. It's all coming back. So you have to schedule it. It has to become something that you put it in there, just like I'm going to go to my annual physical and I'm going to get my teeth cleaned. I'm going to have weekly rest. And to think about how can I have moments of rest, even if you start with just don't take your phone in the bathroom. Start there. And then maybe you go to, I'm not going to get my phone out when I'm waiting in line at the store. I'm going to just sit and be still with my thoughts. Brother Aaron Bounds, pastor in Ohio, often says the Lord will not speak to a distracted or exhausted mind. And it's true. When I can hear him so well, it's when I'm having those moments of stillness. So for that church person that's going, I want that in my life. You have to schedule it. You have to plan it. It is intentional. And to know that as you do this, you're going to reap the rewards quickly. This isn't like when you start a diet and it's not till like way later you start to feel the health improvement or the weight loss. You're going to feel it pretty immediately. Like, oh, that was so good. 16 hours of doing nothing, no mental, physical exertion. Like, that was great. You'll feel it right away. So you just look at it as disobedience, making sure that you are close in relationship with God and then be intentional about it.
Yeah, that was so good. Um, you had used a phrase, was it recharging energy? What
Yeah.
did you say?
Restoring.
Restoring. I love that so much because it's if you're going to do anything, it's to restore you. You're pouring
Yeah.
back into yourself. And that's part
Yeah.
of rest because we are such consumers and givers and we do a lot of
Yes.
things outwardly. But what are you doing to, kind of like fill you up? And so being present has been something the last two or specifically 2 years that I've been really intentional about. And I can give one testimony about that of um, doing walks with my dog and not bringing my headphones every time.
Love that.
And I have it, uh, I love podcasting, obviously, it's why we're here. Um, but just enjoying the sun, feeling the sun,
Yes.
listening to my dog's sounds, being present with him and the sounds in the neighborhood. And when I started making that a habit, I started
Yes.
talking to my neighbors more.
Yeah.
And that opened up the door for me to talk about the Lord. And in one situation, I was able to witness to a new young lady who came to our neighborhood and God just worked it out. She ended up becoming a great friend of mine and being baptized. And if I was distracted, if I had my earbuds in, if I was trying to rush the walk and not be present in what
Hmm.
I was doing, we wouldn't have had that interaction the way that it turned out. Maybe in the
Right.
future, who knows? It could have been a possibility, but for that moment,
It did.
God used it to connect with somebody. So we just never know that. In your moment of rest, it could even help you in rebuilding somebody's faith, even though that's not going to be the focus, but
Right.
God will use it.
It's the result. And I
Right.
love that you brought up the example of walking your dog outside because we have science that shows us that your cortisol stress hormone levels drop, your heart rate drops, your amygdala, the fear part of your brain, turns off just when we see and hear things in nature. So just by seeing the sun, the trees, the leaves, hearing the wind, that your body starts to settle. And that's because God means us to be settled. And so He's given us a creation that, if we will but use it, is going to result in rest. And rest does allow you to be more present for others. So I think that's just an ideal example of how God will use that for you and for others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you and I have very parallel testimonies in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
with many similar layers. And God has
Yeah.
done many miracles in specifically your life these past few years. And a lot of those miracles have also happened in my life as well, which is a whole other story. But where would you want to start with this amazing, testimony of what God has done?
He has done so much for me. I That always makes me think of that song. If you're old enough to know, He's done so much for me. I cannot tell it all. I cannot tell it all. Like that is what I feel in my spirit, that He has over and over done these awesome things and brought me out of these situations that I've seen how it's ended up for people that don't let God, fix that. And so I just this week said, my life is that Bible verse of I am living that exceeding and abundantly above all that you can ask or even think of. That is what God has done for my life, that I have things in my life that I didn't even know were available to me, that I didn't even know I was missing. Like that's how not in touch with I was with all that God had for me. And all of this miracle, if I'm going to look at my one like most life-changing miracle for me, it started in a season of forced rest or stillness. That this summer, it's been 10 years since we moved from Ohio to Georgia. And we certainly had ideas and plans of what it was going to be like, and really almost nothing went the way we thought it would go. My husband had been laid off in Ohio. We moved to Georgia and he was taking a pay cut, but I was going to work part time, so we were going to be fine. But my counseling license, didn't transfer smoothly. And so I was delayed in being able to get a job. So money pressures were mounting. And as we were in that season, my son became chronically ill and got to the point he couldn't even go to school anymore. And so now I can't get a job outside of the home. I'm taking care of him every day. And because money was tight, we weren't able to go out to eat with people at church. So making friends was difficult. We didn't have any long-term friends or close family members. And so our world got very still and very quiet. And so now I'm at home. I don't have a lot of interactions. We don't have a lot of distractions. My husband's job was at home at that point. And in this stillness, which was forced, it wasn't something I was trying to make happen, I began to notice that my children were showing signs and acting in ways that my sister and I used to act. And I didn't understand that because the home I came from, in my mind, when I'm ranking it, was way worse than anything my kids are experiencing. And I used to, this is so ridiculous to me that I used to do this, but I did a list in my mind and I said, the home I grew up in, we had name calling and accusing and drug addiction and such chaos and cruelty. My kids don't endure any of that. What? why are they acting in the same way that my sister and I did? Well, I went to the Lord about it. And as he has promised, if you ask, he'll answer. And when I first got the answer, it was a devastating and dark, dark moment because that thing that I thought I was avoiding when I said, I will never repeat the destructive, sinful, abusive patterns of my childhood, we were repeating. And the only reason I hadn't noticed it was one, I was busy, just staying busy with church stuff and family and work. And two, I was grading. I was going, we are doing so much better than that. But what the Lord really gave to me was if it's a lethal poison, whether it's a drop or a bucket, it still kills you. The effect is the same. And we had a lack of 1 Corinthians 13 love in our home. We didn't have anything that was patient, kind, or slow to anger. We had all the things that God doesn't want, and it left everybody in the home walking on eggshells, just waiting for the next explosion, just waiting for the next issue. And so my children were acting in that way because they were living in a home that didn't have peace and God love. And that was devastating at first, but God worked. Even when I was only praying to tell him how mad I was at him, that I couldn't believe he had let me do this. I'd prayed about who I married. How could he have let me stepped into this? And why tell me about it? Because now I know I'm going to have a terrible life. That my dad had called his end years daily torment. And so I felt it was mean to tell me. But he then spoke again, even when I was just spewing anger at him. And he said, but you know now, and you can change. And then everything can change. And there is still hope for you. There is still hope. And I could change. Something could change. Like my story isn't done. And so that began a journey where God really started to change me. I think a lot of people get very focused on the people outside of themselves, but my miracle started with a change in me, with
Mm.
me leaning on God, with me leaving my people-pleasing ways, with me becoming codependent with him and not anybody else. And for me to be able to have church all by myself, where I'm
Mhm.
shouting and worshiping and praising God all by myself and getting to a place that felt so good that I thought I could endure whatever was going to happen. Like I thought that was my miracle, just that I no longer lived in daily fear. I still got anxious when things happened, but I didn't fear in between. And so I was like, look what God has done for me.
Right,
But that was not the end.
right,
He had
right.
more.
He really did. And it does, it can change now. I
Yeah.
think that hopelessness, God doesn't want us in
Mm.
that heaviness um, and like you were saying before, like once your eyes are open, it's hard not to see,
Yeah.
some of the hard things. Um, and I have often prayed, God, can I go back? Because when I was like, you know, ignorant, but then I realized, um, she was a very sad person
Mm.
because it was all pretend. You
Yeah,
know, you're
it is.
living in an illusion.
Yeah.
You're not really focused on reality. So
Nope.
if it felt safe because you weren't dealing with anything. You were
Yeah.
disassociating and you were
Yep.
doing your own thing. So your memory of what it was is actually not what it really was, if that makes
Mm-mm.
sense.
No, you
Yeah.
think it's okay. That's why I've seen people online that will accuse people that later come out and talk about abuse, that they were being
Mm,
fake when they posted something positive. No. Anytime we were on the up part of our cycle, I was so excited that this is going to last, that all the bad is just like a moment, even though it was a lot of the moments, and that this is going to be really great. But of my own abilities, of my own effort, that never lasts. And
yeah.
instead, it took a God ordered plan. And so when God spoke to me and said he wanted my husband to himself, he said, I want Mark to myself. And I told him no, I did not want to separate for many reasons. I was like, no, I'm doing better. I'm doing okay. We don't need to blow up my life like
Yeah.
that. Also, everyone's going to know. if we separate. Everyone's going to know, and there's a whole thing that
Yeah.
goes with that. But I made a commitment once he showed me that this is not about having a good marriage or your kids having a good dad. This is about making heaven. This is about getting sin out of your life.
Right.
That I began to follow him. It led to what I thought was going to be a short separation with my sweetheart. We separated right after our 25th wedding anniversary. It ended up being a year and 4 months, way longer than I thought it would be. Now, in hindsight, it was a time of extraordinary rest for me. Literally, I was napping like every 2 to 3 hours. My body had to recover from living in that environment. But I felt God so near, and I could hear him, and I would go to him for every detail of what was happening, and he would guide, and it didn't look right, and people were telling me other things. I couldn't see how this was going to end, but I just kept, okay, you said do it, I'm going to do it. You said do it, I'm going to do it. And you, of the most extraordinarily unplanned things that probably have ever happened in my life, we had scheduled with my husband while we were separated to meet up at Calvary Tabernacle in Indianapolis in November of 22. And my son had wanted to visit his friends at IBC. So I said, what if daddy comes and maybe we get him to go to church and let's pray for a miracle. Maybe we can just get this going and like pray for a miracle. This has been too long. And so we called our friends, contacted the Carsons and asked them to please pray with us. And former pastor, the Veras in Xenia, Ohio, and said, please pray that God's going to do a miracle on this Sunday and that everything that he has told me he's going to do will happen. And my husband repented and was refilled with the Holy Ghost, and it has never gone back again. And you were there. You were there. Somebody was praying with me, and I didn't know who was praying with me, but
Yeah.
I'm praying because I'm just like believing and trying to stand on mountains of faith that I've been building in my quiet time. And I hear somebody praying mightily with me, and it was you.
Yeah.
You do not live in Indiana. You do
Nope.
not go to that church.
Nope.
And we happened to be there for that
Yeah.
miraculous day for me in November in 22. I just was so excited to be able to share that with you and to be
Amen.
able to see how good it has been since then. How
Yeah.
good God has been to me.
Yeah, that was so beautiful to witness because I had no idea that you were there at that church service. I have family that go to Calvary in Indiana, um, and the Carsons are beautiful people. And Sister, Rachel, her mother,
Yeah.
has been an advocate when she used to work at PPH. She kind of ushered my books into there.
Oh,
I just have many sweet connections, and we had decided to visit. I think it was in November or something of that year. And I just remember I saw you walking with your husband to the altar, and I turned to, my husband, and I go, "That's Melissa." And I am very careful praying for people if they want to have a special
yeah.
time at the altar with the Lord. I don't need to be there. This is between
Yeah.
you and God. Um, but just felt that draw to
Yeah.
just gently lay my hand on your shoulder and
Yeah.
just, the Holy Ghost just took over. And it was a service that blessed my husband as well. And
Hmm.
he, you know, and it was the start of something amazing for us as well. And just, I did not know that I was going to be a witness to that. And that was the first time we had met in person
Yes. I know. It was
for
like,
that to
how in the
happen.
world does that happen? How in the world?
And this just, God is truly just so, so good. And
Yeah.
he didn't need me to be there. But I think it was, you had spoke so much life to me and
Yeah.
you have done so much for me. And I really felt that the least I could do is just pray for you because
At
I
the
didn't
birth
know
of my
all the
miracle.
detail. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after that, when you shared a little bit more and we got to talk, after that, I felt like it was like us walking different mountains, but we were both walking to our
Yeah.
mountaintop moments that we are in now.
Yeah. It has been amazing, and things that I dreamed of but didn't think I would have, like doing nightly devotions with my husband, reading through the Bible daily together and discussing that and being like seen and loved and not earning anything, which is a good thing because the stage of life I'm in with perimenopause, it's hard for me to earn things. It's hard for me to be on top of it and to be perfect. And I don't need to be. And to be cared for, I even went to my husband and I said, I feel like I'm one of those women that I used to see that were so treasured and cared for by their husbands that I would have a moment of longing, like, that would be awesome. I'm her now. That's me. That's my life. And that is all to the glory of God. That started in a season where we were forced to be still. God really does know how to make it all happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I had that I had that feeling. I mean, my husband is always very complimentary.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it. But that's not, words of affirmation are not his thing, but that's
Yeah.
my thing, you know? But he's very much an act of service.
Mm-hmm.
And last year when I turned 40, he did a surprise birthday party for me. And that was the biggest act of service, acts of service that I've ever seen. Uh, but the way that it was done was so intentional and kind and sweet, and I did not know at all. And we always joke around. He likes to give gifts. That's his other thing that he loves
Ah,
to do, which I don't mind. But um, he can't wait usually. He gets excited and he every year for Christmas, the boys get at least one gift early. He can't help himself. He's like,
yeah.
I just want to see them play with it now. And so for him to actually wait and be patient and think of me in that moment, and he does this now all the time, but this was just such a huge declaration that
Yeah.
we are kind of past where we were. And then also
Yes.
something in our own personal walks with God too, that God was just doing. And then for him to get on a microphone and actually say words of affirmation, I was like, who is this man?
Oh,
It was beautiful and it was sweet. And he's,
yes.
I, it's one of those things where, um, you know that you are loved, but it's shown differently.
Yeah.
And and also understanding too that God uses everything. He does not waste anything.
Nothing is wasted. Mm-mm.
And it was just such a confirmation for me, of okay, you can stop your worrying. You can stop your,
Yes.
what about this and what about that? Because and this is kind of like my next thought and what we've been talking about recently is when you're walking more healed and on the safe
Yeah.
road, you do struggle because
Yeah.
you have been in survival mode.
Yes.
And maybe it's not even marriage related. It just means like if you're an anxious person or you've had past trauma, no matter what it is, even if you're not married, your body is internally holding on to everything.
Yes. It
All your
remembers.
stress, all your fear, it
Mm-hmm.
remembers. And
Mm-hmm.
so just going back and being like, okay, I my neural pathway is used to
Yes.
going one way. I'm used to worrying, I'm used to fretting, I'm used to
Yes.
having these scripts go
Yeah.
through my head. The Lord, I need you to help me reword these scripts,
Yeah.
rewire the pathway.
Yeah.
You know, it really takes some time. And so my next question was, have you struggled with that? And I know
Yeah.
the answer, um, but I would like you to talk about, you know, maybe a little bit more about what God has done, but also the that struggle with regulating your
Yeah.
nervous system and how God has helped you with that.
Yes. Yeah, because I've told you, we had destructive, sinful, abusive, emotionally abusive patterns, and then I told you it's really good now, but that was not a linear overnight pathway. And I don't know why this surprised me because certainly I had enough professional experience, but I believed that because I had had that year and 4 months of incredible rest and such a closeness with God, that I thought it's going to be fine. And yet the data tells us it's about 2 years of continuous, regular, new patterns for your brain to develop those new neural pathways. So I know this, but I'm like, that's not me because I'm feeling great and it's all fine. But it wasn't. And in that first year, my body was triggered. My mind did not worry anymore, but my body was triggered into that survival mode repeatedly. And it surprised me. And it got better at about that 2 year mark, but it still occasionally happens. And it happened just last week. We were in the car, my husband's driving, and he's eating one of those candy sticks from Cracker Barrel that they have like five for $1 or whatever. And so he's sucking on this and he's driving and focused, and I'm telling a story. Well, he's not saying anything, he's not making any noises. He's not looking at me because he's looking at the road. And I feel this clench in my chest, which is my first neural system activation sign. And if you don't know yours, you should pay attention and learn that because I've learned to get curious. Wait, why is that happening? Nothing is going on. We're in the car and I'm telling him a story. It's not an emotional story. What's happening? And pretty quickly, as I felt this dread and this, oh, having a hard time catching my breath, I realized I was being triggered into one of the most painful behaviors that happened to me as a child, and it continued into our marriage, was the silent treatment. When, they wouldn't look at me or speak to me and act like I'm not in the room. And even now, that still makes me go, ugh, like just to think of those moments. And so it was being triggered. Under no circumstances was he giving me the silent treatment. He was working on that little green apple candy stick. That's what was happening while he was driving. But my body was doing it. And so it still happens. It just doesn't happen very regular anymore. And now we do it differently. Now I say it, hey, I'm feeling very triggered. And that word is so overused in social media, but I'm using it in the way it's supposed to be used. My amygdala was turned on. I am triggered into a fight flight response. And I think it's because I was feeling like the silent treatment. Now, here's the beautiful thing about my husband being all things made new in Christ. Every time I get triggered, it is a reminder to him of sinful, destructive, emotionally abusive things that he did in the past. I can't share that moment without him having that reminder. And yet, what he does for me is he usually touches me, holds my hand or holds me. He speaks reassuringly. That's not what's happening. It's okay. I love you. I'm here. He stays calm so my body regulates with his. And then I speak truth out loud. So I can remember in the early days sobbing, going, my husband loves me. I don't have to be afraid. My husband doesn't lie to me. I don't get the silent treatment. Like just repeating those things because you're trying to build, and I always called it in counseling, a trench of truth. You're trying to change that pathway that this is what's true today. I am loved. I am seen. I am cared for. He does not do that to me. It will not happen again. And really work with my body in that moment to, one, be patient that it happened, not beat myself up because there's no thought. It's very, very body. It happens without thought, without any kind of control. It just happens. But I can capture my thoughts and bring back my body into submission, into truth, what is. And then I also just had to make regulation part of my daily life. And if people don't know what regulation is, it's getting your nervous system to work as it's intended to, where the thinking part of your brain is in charge and the fear part is off. And so doing things like movement, daily walking, I actually like rebounding. I enjoy that as exercise, mindful coloring, reading, making sure that I gave my body practice on the regular daily of being still and activating that thinking part and helping myself to regulate. So when those moments happen, as I just did, My husband is such a godly, stable, not defensive. It doesn't become about him. And that just trains my brain to go, see, it's never going to happen again. See, we're good. We're good. And so regulation is something if people don't know about it, it's highly important to do. But for me, it's been even better with my partner, my husband, being able to do that with me.
Yeah, it's definitely helpful to say those scripts out loud,
Yes.
to hear yourself saying them. Thinking them is good, but that's what you're trying to change. So sometimes
Yeah.
it can be like muddled up here.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's like a war. No, it's not going to be good. Yes, it is going to be good. And then it's like a battle. If you say
Yeah.
it out loud and you speak it into the atmosphere, it's almost like you hear it and your brain changes, like starts to
Yeah.
make those changes for me. In particular, because, as somebody who has all the words,
Yeah.
sometimes those words can get jumbled. And one of the
Hmm.
things that we've done personally is just um of like he checks in and says like what are you feeling,
Yeah.
or like tell me like explain to me how you feel.
Yes.
And if I don't know, because it's hard to put words to something, I'll just say I don't know,
Hmm.
but I think it's this.
Yeah.
So you don't have to like be settled on one thing or another and be like, oh,
Yeah.
put a label on everything.
Yeah.
You can just the being honest, in certain situations that we have, I'll try and be just to word it of I'm not sure why I feel this way, but I believe it's because X, Y, and Z. And so if you can just have some grace while I process it, I appreciate it. And just say that
And
rather
what
than
when you
just
use the
keep
word
quiet.
process, it's ultimately being curious
Yes,
and patient with yourself, going, I don't know. I am having a feeling. I don't
right.
really know what it is. And I'm just going to be curious. And so that's what happened in the car. I was like,
Yeah.
that's strange. Why is this happening? And what I have found is in time, I always can see the wound that was being pushed. I can see
Yes.
the scar that was being messed with. That even though it's a scar, if you've ever had a physical scar, when you mess with a physical scar, you still feel it. It's a, oh, that skin is different.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that it ever will be that I'm never ever triggered. Just it happens way less. It's much less intense and it's shorter in duration. And so if there comes a day that there are no more triggers, that I could get the silent treatment and be like, I don't care. Well, I will love it. I will love it. And until then, I'm going to give grace to myself.
Right. So for those who are super sensitive, which is not a
Yeah.
bad thing,
No?
that's a trigger for me. When somebody
Yeah.
says you're being sensitive, I'm like, ooh. I'm
Well,
like, wait,
thank
aren't we
you.
supposed to be Christian?
Thank you for that.
I can get on my soapbox about that for a minute, but I won't. But for people who are super sensitive or they're recovering from past trauma, you kind of uh open the window to it, but what does it look like for you? Because it may not
Yeah.
look like this for everybody, but what does it look like? What does anxiety look like for you on the other side,
Yeah.
with God? Because I know for me, I'll just share this is, um, I kn it's no longer like I, you know, it's no longer like a huge label that I have to have shame.
Yeah.
I
Right.
see it as this is part of just being human. Everybody
Yep.
has it.
Yep.
But I'm more in tune with mine than maybe some other people are with theirs. And it's not a bad word anymore.
Nope.
It's just, I just see it as, oh, I'm feeling this way because I need to take a minute with God and ask Him,
Hmm.
why do I feel this way? So
What's this
that's
about? Yeah.
for me personally, but I'd like to hear
Yeah.
from you.
That's good. And I'd like to tell you when you asked that question that a scholarly or thoughtful answer came to me, but I'm gonna tell you what I said to my friend Denise. So, She's one of my friends from church, and we got together maybe 2 or 3 months after my husband and I were reconciled. And she's like, "Girl, just tell me, what's it like living in this, peaceful setting that you're in?" And I said, "You know what? I can sleep and poop every day." That's right, sleeping and pooping every day. And if you've had anxiety, you'll know why that's a big deal. When we're anxious, our body thinks we're getting ready to die. And so it turns off our digestion system. And so you get things like more cavities because you have not enough spit in your mouth, and reflux and stomach issues and bathroom troubles. All that is anxiety related, including sleep. Your body keeps you awake because it thinks you're in danger. So I said, that's how my life is, eating and sleeping and pooping daily. Yeah, come on, tell me that's not the way we want to live.
Yeah, it's
And
true.
so that's the comical answer. And the real answer, actually, one of the elements is something you said earlier, that I find that there is room in my head, my heart, my life to be able to be more externally focused. Anxiety causes a hyperfixation on your own safety. Am I okay? Is everything all right? And if we're sensitive when we're anxious, we're sensitive to other people's moods and keeping them happy. We're not sensitive to really connecting. And so the way I used to interact with even my own family and in the world is when I did kind things, it came from a place of fear. I don't want you to not love me. I don't want you to be upset with me. I want to look good in your eyes. And there's been a shift that now I do those things from the overflow of the love that I get in my relationship with God. And so I do things out of love, and I see things and notice things and connect with people in ways that I never would have before, not because I'm being selfish, but I'm in survival mode. And survival mode is not conducive for doing the Great Commission. And so it is not a coincidence that God has called my husband and I to establish and pastor these house churches after we are in a place of His love being part of our daily life, and we can have this external focus now that comes from that place of love. And so I would say having that love in my home and being able to express it outward is one of the most beautiful parts of being on the other side of anxiety.
I love that. I love that. And it reminded me of um my own journey in ministry as well, knowing that you're called to do something and
Yeah.
not really seeing it come to pass.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, okay, I'm going to trust. Obviously, I trust my leadership. They already know what's going on.
Yes.
We check in every year. But it was like a decade of like, I'm just doing what God has called me to do, and then he's opened many doors online, but I had such a burden for my home church. I love home missions so much because I
Yeah.
was saved, through home missions,
Yeah.
basically of the local church and where you are in the community, you know, um, just the connection with friends and loving one another. I love that so much. And so all the things I was doing online, I
Yeah.
wanted to walk that out in real life, IRL, you know?
Yeah. Right.
And
Right. I want to feel that all the time.
And the Lord had very specific things that he had led me to do.
Mm.
And and it was dying to myself, putting things down that he'd asked me to put down,
Yeah.
when I took a break, that season of
Mm-hmm.
rest that he had
Yeah.
called me to do, lay down the podcast. I know that was your concern for many years of you're doing too much, girl.
You're doing
And that you're like that big sister. And I'm like, I know. Um, and I think we could tell, like, you could tell, like, if I was in a really like anxious season, I would start a new project. And
Yes.
you would text
Yes.
me like, "Are you okay?"
That was your tell.
Yeah,
I'd be like, oh, she's writing 5 books today. Things are rough.
yeah. And and God still used that, but there
Yeah.
was something in me that still didn't heal,
Yeah.
right? And there was like three big things that had happened. Boom, boom, boom. It was like it was a December, a January, and a February thing, um, probably about 3 years ago now. And one of them was having that moment with my husband where the Lord healed us literally overnight. And
Thank you, Lord.
we had a moment where we both came to each other with a repenting heart.
Yeah.
And the Lord gives me like not visuals, but I guess examples. Like we were so busy, sometimes we get so busy looking at each other
Yeah.
and like trying to change each other or do certain
Yes.
things. And the Lord had told me, I need you to step out of the way so he can look at me. And
Yes.
I was literally trying to, I had my sword like Peter to step
Yeah.
in to protect Jesus. And
Yeah.
God was like, I don't need you.
Yeah. I'm
you
good.
know, um, and so if you would step aside so he can see me, so if we could just turn our vision both
Yeah.
to God together still, but we're looking in one direction. And the Holy Ghost just came into that room. And I remember my husband saying the next day, like he felt such a weight lifted, that there
Yeah.
was this like internal thing that we were holding on to,
Mm.
past and bitterness, that was gone. And to this
Yeah.
day, there's a specific timeline of events that we actually don't mention ever at all. It
Mm.
never comes up ever at all
Okay.
from our past. We
Yeah.
just can't, it doesn't come to our mind ever of
Which is
things that have
awesome.
happened, things that were being brought up for years,
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was a lightness, there was just
Mm-hmm.
an understanding, there was a respect, and it was truly the love of God flowing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
right after that, that next month was my pastor calling us in and looking at me and saying, I think it's time for you to join the ministry team now. After 10 years
Mm.
of feeling like I was called to preach. Uh,
Yeah.
and I looked over at my husband and he just had this glow. And I said, that's what needed to happen was I could not
Yes.
walk in that, very serious calling. All of the callings of God is serious. We're all
Yeah.
representatives of God, no matter what the calling is, preaching or
Yeah.
not. But you know, you're going to be speaking and teaching to men and women of this congregation when
Yeah.
your home is not, right. And there's no home that's perfect, but there's something that you need to do first. You have
Yeah.
to humble yourself. It's
Yes.
not about you. And one of the things the Lord told me was, you're trying to be the living water.
Mm.
And that hurt because I was like, oh, I'm thinking I'm so like, oh, I'll fix this. And I still can have that. And but
Yeah.
but I'm aware of it. That's why I one of the reasons I don't want to go back is the Lord has opened my eyes to my flaws and the
Yeah.
things that I need to lay down more. And yeah, of course she was happy back then. Of course I was happy back then. I was ignoring all those red flags about
Right.
myself.
Right. Right.
But
Living in ignorance. It was
living in
blissful.
ignorance, yeah, ignorance is bliss. And it's just the way God kind of just organized everything. And we were able
Yes.
to testify to my pastor about that and set
Yeah.
everything in motion. And the timing was right for that. And, you know, we do have this nagging fear, and you kind of talked about that, like,
Hmm.
ooh, that like in your chest. I do get that as well. It's for me, I think it's a tingle of dread.
Yes, it
I
is.
feel
Oh,
this
it's happening.
tingle, yeah, this tingle of dread. And it's like, oh, my peace is temporary now.
Yeah.
And so you shared that, and I resonate with that a lot. But um, I would love it if you could just speak to that anxious heart. I know that
Yeah.
there's somebody listening
Yeah.
who maybe feels that they don't have support. Maybe they feel like they don't have people that they can talk to about anxiety. I
Yeah.
mean, I had to be very careful who I chose as my safe people to talk to
Yeah.
about this. And even
Yeah.
still, I'm very careful. Ministry opens you up to a lot of um, uh, just connections with different people. And as much as I love everybody, not everybody knows how to hold what you're sharing.
Yeah. I agree.
And they may not be doing it maliciously. They just may not be equipped by
So
God to hold it.
that's right. They
So
just don't know yet.
they don't know. And so if you can speak to the anxious heart of somebody
Yeah.
um, who maybe has received a miracle or a healing, or they're waiting for it, but they're having a hard time to just being present in it.
Yeah.
And of course, having rest in the Lord, what would you say to them?
That one, that is expected, that is our nature. And I know for me, I had noted in our sin destructive pattern that any change he would make, he could hold it, but not for more than 30 days. And so I had noted that back then that in 30 days, this will be over. Nothing had ever lasted past that. So when we were reconciled and it was so sweet and it felt different, I was watching the days. And when 31 happened and 32, I'm like, is this gonna last? Is this gonna be real? And as I just started to rest in that, one, it just takes time for you to see, oh, it's been a long time and it's still not happened. But it also took me shifting that it's not that I'm only going to be okay if he's okay and treats me well or lives for God. That in my relationship with God, I really gained a sense during our separation of no matter if it all falls apart, no matter if I am attacked and rejected and I don't have a home and it's financial ruin, I'm going to be okay. That I've never seen the righteous forsaken nor his seed begging for bread, that all things work together for good for those who are called according to his purpose. Like I had to hold on to truth in that separation, and that keeps me even now. That this is going to last. But even if not, it does not matter. I'm going to be okay. Like God is going to take care of me, and I don't need. I actually told my husband this in the beginning. I don't need you. I want you. I'm so glad to have you. I only need Jesus. That is all that I need. And that gives you peace because then you don't feel vulnerable because he'll never leave or forsake me. He's never going to let me down. And so I can have that assurance that it doesn't really matter what's going on here. I'm going to be all right. And that keeps me from worrying about, is this going to change? It doesn't matter if it does. I'm still good.
That's so good. And that's so important. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, just literally telling God, it's just me and you.
Just me and you.
I
Yep.
that's something I say to him all the time because it was one of the first times I had a hard time as a first convert. Um, it's not easy coming in, but um, the first time that I really had a truly like traumatic thing happen, I remember saying, "Okay, from this moment on, it's just me and you, Jesus. It's just you and
Mm-hmm.
me." Excuse me. And ever since then, that's been my mantra. Like if
Yeah.
I go through hard times or whatever, I'll just take a minute in prayer.
Yes.
And even if I
Yes.
don't feel it, I don't feel the words, I will say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, it's just me and you.
We'll be
And
okay.
lately, specifically the last couple years, when I say that, I just feel like such peace.
Yes.
The joy of the Lord and just his presence so strong
Yes.
of him saying, yeah, you haven't lost me.
Right?
Like I haven't lost Jesus, even if
Yeah.
everything else goes away.
He's
And I
mine.
and I think yeah, just making sure that we have that own like our own personal relationship with God.
You know that line in the Bible? He says it over and over, and I love it. I smile every time where he says, I am yours and you are mine. And when I
Yeah,
think of that, I'm like, perfect love really does cast out all fear.
it
That when I
does.
have that sense of him saying, you're mine and I'm
Yeah,
yours, that I'm like, I don't need to be afraid. And I can never thank God enough for deliverance from
yeah,
fear and anxiety. I can never thank him enough.
right. Melissa, I love your heart so much. I love what you do. I think it's essential to the body of Christ. I think it's truly essential for the world, honestly, to have someone who can come alongside you. And
Yeah.
the Lord has, placed certain people who can do that, who has walked through their own things, but are on the other side. I think it's so beautiful. And I want to just thank you so much for sharing your heart, for your friendship, for just your wisdom today. And if people want to follow you on social media, where can they find you?
It is my name on Instagram, Melissa.Snyder 2.0, or Facebook, Mark and Melissa Snyder. And I want to say the same to you, that I thank you for using your platform to talk about things that are not often talked about, that are even not within our church culture sometimes, like rest being a commandment and a priority, and the power that God has to transform us, that we don't have to just keep going through the motions. And I'm a church person, I'm good. No, God means for you to have life abundantly here. And it's available to everyone that will just be in relationship with Him. He will lead and guide you to that place.
Well said. Well said. Thank you so much for being here with me
Thank you.
today.
Thanks.